It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You are now entering the Stone Zone. There is excellent news tonight. President Donald Trump, according to the New York Times, has issued a full and unconditional pardon to former retired New York Police Department detective Michael McMahon. Michael McMahon, working as a licensed private detective, stumbled into a massive Communist Chinese spying operation here in the United States. McMahon, who was never paid with any foreign money, was prosecuted rather than expose the entire inside the United States Chinese spying operation. McMahon's wife, actress Martha Byrne, appeared right here in the Stone Zone only days ago to talk about the unjust nature of this case. But thanks to God and much prayer, thanks to Martha Byrne and her unrelenting advocacy for justice for her husband, and thanks to the many listeners of the Stone Zone who contacted the White House to tell them that they wanted justice in this case, Michael McMahon will be released. Now, the bad news is that the order of pardon came late today after the Bureau of Pardons was closed for the day, and therefore it is unlikely that Michael McMahon will be released to return to his wife and 3 kids until Monday. But just the same, justice has been served. God bless America, and God bless President Donald Trump. In unsurprising news, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi announced that she will not be seeking re-election next year. Pelosi, who somehow on a $200,000 a year salary after decades in the Congress amassed a fortune of $163 million, according to the most recent financial disclosure filings, is passing the baton to a new generation of extremists and America haters who will be vying for her seat in her far-left San Francisco district. Let's listen to Nancy Pelosi.
That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative. As we go forward, my message to the city I love is this: San Francisco, know your power. We have made history. We have made progress. We have always led the way. And now we must continue to do so by remaining full participants in our democracy and fighting for the American ideals we hold dear. In doing so, we ensure that our city shines on as a beacon of hope, justice, and peace for the country and for generations to come. After all, San Francisco is the greatest city on earth with the most extraordinary people on earth, and a place that I will always believe is heaven on earth. Thank you, San Francisco, for trusting me to be your voice in Congress. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
I mean, the fake heartfeltness and hollow sentiment in Pelosi's videos actually revolted to me. Throughout Pelosi's many decades in politics, the government got bigger, more corrupt, the people became less free, and the country was fractured. This was due in no small part to her woeful leadership. Pelosi was always nasty and partisan. She could never hide her contempt for President Donald Trump or for the people who elected him. She personally enriched herself and her family through a relentless maze of insider trading. Her poor, drunken husband even had an illicit rendezvous with a mysterious intruder, which Nancy allegedly helped to cover up. Everything about this woman is fake and inauthentic. Pelosi will soon be gone, and then she'll be forgotten almost immediately. The radicals who have taken over the Democrat Party hold her in contempt because she's not enough of a Marxist extremist. So as dangerous as these radical, progressive, socialists and Marxists are in the Democrat Party, at least they hold sincere, albeit misguided and absurd principles. Pelosi never had any principles in my view. She would do and say anything to satisfy the special interests and keep that gravy train rolling in for herself. Nancy Pelosi is the embodiment of everything that's wrong with the Washington, D.C. swamp, and I say good riddance to her. Her retirement is long overdue. In exciting news, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik announced today that she will run for governor of New York State. Stefanik will be challenging incumbent Democrat Kathy Hochul in next year's election, where I think she's got the best chance of becoming the first Republican governor of the Empire State since George Pataki, who defeated Governor Mario Cuomo, left office in 2006. In making her announcement, Congresswoman Stefanik wrote that Nancy Hochul is the worst governor in America. Under her failed leadership, New York is the most unfavorable state in the nation with the highest taxes, highest energy, utilities, rent, and grocery bills, and among the highest crime rates. When New Yorkers were looking for leadership from our governor, she bent the knee to the raging, defund the police, tax-hiking, communist-causing catastrophe for New York families. I'm running for governor to make New York affordable and for all New Yorkers. Democrats, Republicans, Independents will unify to save our state. Now, in my opinion, the election of Zohran Mamdani as the New York City mayor should give a shot in the arm to Stefanik's chances. Mamdani's soft on crime, high tax policies are going to cause almost immediate pain and misery to the people of New York City. And Hochul had to immediately bend the knee to this radical wing of the party, announcing her endorsement of Mamdani and urging Democrats to hold their nose and vote for the radical. This will not look good for voters next year, as Hochul will not be able to remove the stench of Mamdani. And if Hochul tries to distance herself from him, she will risk alienating her far-left base and getting blowback in that regard. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a very good friend of mine, who's appeared here on the show, is the perfect Republican candidate for New York governor. She appeals to moderates, but she's also unquestionably loyal to President Donald Trump. She will be a governor who can make New York great again. Meanwhile, no surprise, Senator Bernie Sanders is hoping for more Zohran Mamdani candidates nationwide. He told a CNN reporter that, of course, Mamdani is a leader of the Democratic Party. Let's listen to this socialist blowhard.
After seeing the results of last night's election, you have said that this is not just a New York City thing, which some people have dismissed his win as. Do you think Zohran Mamdani is a leader in the Democratic Party now?
Well, of course he is. He's going to be the mayor of the city of New York. But what's important about last night is not only that he ran a brilliant campaign. He had 90,000 volunteers. He's incredibly articulate. It's what he talked about during the campaign. And he made it clear what is true in every state in this country is that the richest people in America are becoming phenomenally richer. Billionaires are exploding in terms of wealth. While ordinary people, 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck, ordinary people can't afford health care. They can't afford childcare. They can't afford the food in the grocery store. They can't afford to retire with dignity. That's what Zohran campaigned on. It resonated with people. It will resonate with people in every state in this country.
Is that something that Democrats, you believe, should run on?
Absolutely.
In the next year?
Look, people understand that Democrats have got to have the courage to acknowledge reality. You got one person. You tell me if this makes any sense. One person, Mr. Musk, owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. In the richest country on earth, we got 800,000 people sleeping out on the street. Millions can't afford health care. It is not a radical idea to say, and that's what Mamdani is talking about.
Sanders is encouraging other candidates to use the Mamdani approach, combining populism and socialism to make appeals to beleaguered voters. While Mamdani's policies might be absurd and laughable, the voting public might not see it that way. The voters are sick of establishment politicians who feed them the same canned talking points election cycle after election cycle. They know that something is desperately wrong with the system, and they want the system to be upended. Socialists who pledge to do that will earn the votes. It's kind of the hope and change strategy. The only way to combat this is by having real Make America Great candidates who will give a pro-American set of policies, put them forward for the voters, similar to President Donald Trump, and urge a return to national glory by restoring our sovereignty, establishing supremacy in our trade deals, and getting the government off the backs of the American people. While we're at it, cutting taxes and regulation will help the economy flourish. We need candidates who support those policies. That is a more natural message that appeals to the American people anyway. But if we're foolish enough to run establishment Republicans, I'm afraid we will lose to the socialists, and deservedly so. Amazingly, I just read that an incredible 84% of Generation Z women between 18 and 29 voted for Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York City on this past Tuesday. Additionally, 67% of men from the same group voted for the socialist candidate. Mamdani dominated his nearest opponent, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, among voters under the age of 50. Voters over the age of 50 preferred Cuomo. Voters making between $30,000 and $300,000 per year overwhelmingly supported Mamdani. Unsurprisingly, among those making over $300,000, well, Andrew Cuomo won 62% of the vote. So what do these voter trends really mean? Does it mean that we have lost the youth to the clutches of socialism? Possibly, but I actually don't think so. If we cannot offer an alternative to socialism as beyond support of the status quo, then we will lose the next generation of them. Gen Z voters understand that their future has been robbed from them, that the American dream that previous generations had just does not exist for them. They no longer have functional communities. AI is eviscerating the job market for them. They can't afford homes. The idea of having a family seems unattainable for them. So they vote for radical change. And if socialism is the only option for that change, or appears to be, well, they will choose that. I actually think it's understandable. What we need to do is offer the full America First alternative to these voters. We cannot put up with established Republicans thinking they can win. Moderate Republicans got us into this mess, in my opinion. They will not get us out of it. We need MAGA Republicans running for as many positions as possible in the midterms. Accepting any less means President Trump's agenda will be neutered and will lose the country to our far left enemies. Those who want to say that the elections this past Tuesday were lost by the Republicans, let me point out that Trump was not on the ballot. And therefore it is unlikely that this can be correctly determined to be a defeat for the president. Additionally, in a sign that President Trump's border enforcement measures are actually working, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported the lowest number of illegal immigrant encounters in history during the month of October. This comes as the administration reaches 6 months of zero releases of illegals under current strict enforcement policies. So catch and release is a thing of the past, and illegals are getting the message. The Department of Homeland Security reported 30,561 total nationwide encounters with illegals at the border, which is down 29% from the all-time low of 43,010 in October of fiscal year 2012. That was a 79% decrease from last year when the nation was still under Joe Biden's open border insanity. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to The Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
This is The Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
It is a great, great person, Roger Stone.
The Stone Zone.
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
At BeBullish.com.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Attorney General Pam Bondi stated this week that former Special Counsel Jack Smith actually confiscated President Donald Trump's government-issued phone as part of the infamous and unconstitutional Arctic frost probe that targeted elected officials, private individuals, and institutions close to President Donald Trump, a major violation of law, privacy, and the Constitution. Bondi wrote, "We can never again allow this kind of government weaponization in America. I submitted these new documents to our partners on Capitol Hill. I commend our team at the FBI for working diligently to expose these abuses." The House Judiciary Committee released a report last week showing that people such as myself, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Congressman Scott Perry, former Congressman Mark Meadows, White House Personnel Director Dan Scavino, General Michael Flynn, U.S. Pardon Attorney Ed Martin, and others were all targeted with illegal surveillance in Arctic frost. Additionally, Jack Smith actually got the phone records of U.S. Senators Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Lummis, Marsha Blackburn, and Senator Mike Kelly. They were all seized. So that's a violation of the separation of powers portion of the U.S. Constitution. We know the crimes have been committed, and we thank the Trump administration, the FBI, and the DOJ for exposing all this, as well as the House Republicans for their work. But now the time for indictments has come. Now we must see justice against the individuals who knowingly violated our rights in pursuance of their political agenda. We need perp walks. We need bureaucrats dragged out of their homes in handcuffs, not for retribution, not for retaliation, but for accountability and justice. Although it will be undeniably sweet watching these people humiliated and disgraced publicly. But we have to restore the rule of law in this country. We need more than just lip service to heal the country and to restore faith in our national law enforcement institutions. Attorney General Bondi, it is time to lock these folks up. Until you hear the FBI pounding on your door at 6 o'clock in the morning, terrorizing your dogs and ultimately your wife, and learn that there's a CNN camera along with 29 heavily armed FBI agents in front of your home, until you open the door to the long rifles pointed at your head, you don't understand how outrageous this entire Russian collusion hoax and the seditious conspiracy that morphed into Arctic frost has been. Now is not about a rampage or revenge and retaliation or retribution, as the Democrats say it is, but it is indeed time for accountability and justice. That is all that President Trump demands, and I support that demand. But now it's up to Attorney General Pam Bondi to actually determine in front of grand juries who committed crimes, charge them, give them fair trials, and let them face their punishment. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You are now re-entering the Stone Zone. President Donald Trump has demanded that Senate Republicans end the filibuster, but as I talk to average citizens, I learned that very few of them really understand what the filibuster is. So let me explain it. A filibuster is a Senate procedure that allows one or more senators to delay or block a vote on a bill or a nomination by extending debate on it. Now, in practice, it means that most legislation cannot pass the Senate unless 60 of the 100 senators vote to end debate, called a process known as invoking cloture. So without 60 votes, no bill or a bill can be stalled indefinitely. So while a simple majority, 51 votes of course, is enough to pass most bills, the filibuster effectively raises the threshold to pass any bill or nomination to 60 votes to move that legislation forward. Here's how it actually works. A debate begins on a bill in the Senate. If a senator or group of senators want to block it, they can refuse to yield the floor or otherwise signal intent to raise a filibuster. To stop the delay, Senate leadership must file a motion for cloture. That is a motion to end the debate. That cloture vote, in other words, invoking or breaking the filibuster, requires 60 votes. If cloture passes, debate ends and the Senate votes on the bill, which requires 51 votes to pass it. But if cloture fails, the bill is yet stalled, often effectively killing it. Historically, filibusters were long speeches. Everybody remembers that clip from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, that great movie, but now they're mostly procedural. Just the threat of a filibuster can halt any bill or nomination. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to the filibuster. Some Senate actions are not subject to the filibuster rule, including budget reconciliation. That can pass with a simple majority of 51 votes. Most presidential nominations, but this is only after a rules change came in 2013 and yet again in 2017, and certain trade, military, or fast-track measures. So why does the filibuster exist? I mean, it's not in the Constitution. It evolved from early Senate rules that allowed unlimited debate, reflecting the founders' vision of the Senate as a more deliberative body than the House. Here's why it's beneficial. Of course, that depends on your party. When the minority party benefits, the filibuster gives the minority leverage to block or negotiate changes to legislation or to modify or change a nomination. It prevents the majority from easily passing sweeping policy changes. So, example, the Republicans used it during the Obama years to block some of Obama's initiatives. When the majority party benefits is when they're out of power. So today's majority might one day be the minority. So they often hesitate to abolish the filibuster rule completely. It can encourage bipartisanship, forcing some cross-party cooperation and negotiation, at least in theory. It protects the Senate's identity as a slower, more consensus-driven chamber. But here's why the filibuster is controversial. Critics say it causes gridlock and gives a minority of senators, representing a minority of Americans, veto power over national policy. Supporters argue that it protects minority rights and prevents rash or partisan legislation. Now, the current debate, Democrats have often called for filibuster reform, especially when it comes to voting rights, abortion, or gun legislation. Republicans generally have defended the filibuster as a safeguard against tyranny of the majority. Some proposals include a talking filibuster requiring senators to physically hold the floor or carving out exceptions for specific issues. The bad news, however, is that Senator Ted Cruz has informed President Trump that the Senate does not have the votes to end the filibuster to reopen our government. Let's listen to Senator Cruz.
I'm sure you were at the Republican breakfast with President Trump. All right, he wants to end the filibuster. Okay, and he's, campaigning on it, talking about it, tweeting on it. He talked to you all at the breakfast meeting. What does Senator Ted Cruz think about this?
Look, the votes are not there to end the filibuster. It is not every president of our lifetime has wanted to end the filibuster, because if you want to move legislation through, the filibuster necessarily slows things down. I can tell you that when Joe Biden was in the White House and Democrats had the House and Senate, it is only the filibuster that stopped us from absolute devastation.
President Trump said that it's only a matter of time before the Democrats end the filibuster, so why not go ahead and get ahead of them and muscle through as much of the MAGA agenda as possible? President Trump said, I think it's time for them to end the filibuster or just put everybody back to work. vote in voter ID, vote no in-mail voting except for the military, faraway military, and people that are very sick. I'd like to see one-day voting, all on one day. I'd like to see not 65 days of voting from all over the place. I'd like to clean up the elections, the border. We've done a great job. We have a great, strong border now. I'd like to see new rules on immigration that can be fair and good. There's so many things that we could put into place, including tax cuts that we could get, and we could do it all ourselves. But to do that, we have to end the filibuster. The filibuster, and they'll do it soon. They'll immediately do it. But it does not appear that way. It's hard to disagree with the president's strategy here. The country's hanging by a thread, and this may be the last chance to save America. If the Senate doesn't use the power at their disposal, well, this could derail the momentum President Trump has built and give the Democrats the edge in going into next year's midterm elections. Unfortunately, Senator Cruz and the Rhino gang will take, I think, any excuse not to act. This is why conservatives have not seemed to conserve much of anything over the last couple years. President Donald Trump has been further hampered by the blue slip rule. The blue slip rule is not a law. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Senate rules, but basically says that unless one or both senators from any given state acquiesce in the appointment of a U.S. attorney, in other words, they give a blue slip, then that U.S. attorney cannot be confirmed. That means that the president, who has the unilateral right to appoint U.S. attorneys in every jurisdiction in the country, is thwarted by the U.S. Senate that simply refuses to act. We've seen exactly that happen in New Jersey, where the president appointed the most able attorney, Alina Habba, to the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the two Democrat senators from New Jersey have refused to acquiesce in her nomination, giving her a blue slip. The president then appointed her as an interim U.S. attorney, which she could serve for 120 days. At the end of that 120 days, the seat was vacated. The federal judges from the district immediately appointed a liberal Democrat as the U.S. attorney. The president then fired that U.S. attorney and reappointed Alina Habba as the acting or Deputy Attorney General. It's time to end this charade and let President Donald Trump have his nominees. It's interesting that in the Biden years, Republican senators in virtually every state acquiesced in Biden's appointment of the U.S. attorneys. That civility that was given to Republicans, by Republicans, to Democrats during the Biden years does not exist for Donald Trump. And therefore, once again, similar to his first term, President Trump does not control his own judiciary and his own, Department of Justice. It's time to do away with the blue slip rule and let President Donald Trump have his nominees as federal prosecutors. As I said when we first entered the Stone Zone, President Donald Trump has pardoned former New York City Police Sergeant Michael McMahon. Here's what I wrote just weeks ago. Michael McMahon is a distinguished, decorated New York City Police Department sergeant who served New Yorkers with honor during some of the most dangerous years of crime in America's largest city. After retiring from the department, he continued to serve through honest work as a licensed private investigator in New Jersey. Yet he was charged by the Biden Justice Department. His alleged crime was nothing more than accepting an assignment from a U.S.-based company that involved surveillance for clients he had no reason to believe were connected to Beijing's sinister Communist Chinese campaign known as Operation Fox Hunt. So Michael McMahon took photographs. He observed movements. He performed lawful investigative work that private investigators across America perform every single day. Yet when he uncovered a massive Communist Chinese spy ring right here in the United States, the Department of Justice twisted these routine tasks into a theatrical display of espionage and conspiracy. They smeared him as if he were an enemy of the state, and they railroaded this fine American into a false conviction. They sent Michael McMahon to prison while the true traitors of our republic walked free. At the center of this fight for an innocent man's rights and freedom stands his wife, actress and author Martha Byrne. She joined us right here in the Stone Zone only days ago. She has shown the courage that can only be described as incandescent. She has written, spoken, and now documented this calamity against her family in a book, In the Interests of Justice, which exposed the corruption and cruelty of a system that chews up the innocent to protect the guilty. Her work is not only a voice of a devoted wife, but a battle cry for justice in America, justice for all. But let's take a minute to examine the hypocrisy that reeks from the walls of Washington. While Michael McMahon is punished as if he were a foreign agent serving his prison sentence, the real enemies of America are shielded and protected. Bureaucrats twist the law into a weapon to destroy ordinary men while ignoring the corruption festering in their own ranks. The Biden regime rewards loyalty to the swamp and punishes loyalty to the truth. Meanwhile, Michael McMahon, who never leaked a classified secret, never took a foreign payment, never obstructed justice, yet was shackled and treated as if he were a dangerous traitor. Yes, I know it all too well. This is lawfare in its most malignant form. I know these tactics because I lived them. When Robert Mueller's Inquisition targeted me, they buried exculpatory evidence. They twisted facts beyond recognition. They produced fabrications born of pure deceit. Yet the unredacted Mueller report revealed my innocence and proved what I'd said all along. I was innocent. I had done nothing wrong. But you see, the process itself is the punishment, and Michael McMahon was enduring the exact same punishment until today. The exculpatory evidence withheld from McMahon and his defense team would have most certainly have proved his undoubted innocence, but would have also exposed the malicious and corrupt conduct of the FBI and the Justice Department themselves. I emphasize greatly with McMahon because, well, I have been where he is and I know exactly how he feels. No American should ever have to be living in fear of their own government. The architects of this injustice are the career Comey loyalists at the FBI who, like termites, infest the foundation of our republic. These are dangerous people. They're also subversive people. They crucify good men like Michael McMahon because he's easy to destroy, and they believe no one will fight for him. They must not only be removed from power, but they themselves should now be prosecuted for their corruption and their betrayal of the American people. The good news is President Donald Trump has acted. He alone had the courage to strike at the heart of this Leviathan outrage. A pardon for Michael McMahon today is not mercy. What it is justice. He was innocent all along, just like I said I was, and it was the repudiation of selected prosecution that stands out today.
It is the restoration of fairness in a nation that's forgotten what fairness means. I'm glad that Martha Byrne's voice was heard right here in the Stone Zone.
Her book was also a beacon. It's a rallying cry for every American who has ever felt the crushing weight of government tyranny, and for those Americans who have not yet suffered the same fate as McMahon and me. It is a cautionary tale. She was right to demand her husband's freedom. The American people stood with him. I want to thank all of those who listened to that broadcast and who prayed for Michael McMahon, his wife, and his 3 children. He was charged simply with bribery, and every time I turned around, they shortened his sentence. Charles McGonigal is a perfect example of the incredible corruption of the FBI, corruption that Kash Patel, the new FBI director, must clean house with. This is Roger Stone and the Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Re-entering the Stone Zone. It was actually 53 years ago today that President Richard Nixon won the greatest single landslide in American political history, carrying all states in his re-election bid with the exception of Massachusetts. It was only a year and a half after that, of course, that President Nixon was forced to resign in the Watergate scandal. But the Washington Post version of Watergate is not the truth. Based on declassified government documents, we now know that the Central Intelligence Agency was well aware of the misguided plan to break into the Watergate and that they infiltrated the Watergate burglar team. Indeed, 4 of the 8 Watergate burglars were CIA operatives still on the CIA payroll and reporting to their CIA handlers. We also know that the Senate Watergate special prosecutor, specifically Nick Ackerman, was well aware of this CIA infiltration, but refused to make it public. It is now, I think, an article of faith that the American people have not been told the truth about Watergate, and that the Washington Post version of events is, well, just false, what President Trump would call fake news. On a personal note, I'm happy to report that my dog Pee-wee, who, as many of you know, was poisoned only about a month and a half ago, has now gotten a clean bill of health from the veterinarian after Mrs. Stone taking the dog in for blood tests on a weekly basis and taking a very special diet. I think Pee-wee also benefited from the great products of Rough Greens, that's ruffgreens.com, an all-natural series of both food and vitamins that I think helped his recovery tremendously. Lastly, I want to say, as a Hungarian American, I am half Italian and half Hungarian. Although I am Italian from the waist down, I was pleased to see Hungarian President Viktor Orban visit President Donald Trump today in the White House. Now, they call Orban a Nazi, they call him a dictator, but he won a democratic election, and the Hungarians are experiencing a period of both security, safety, and unprecedented prosperity. They're also one of the few countries in Europe that does not have unregulated and uncontrolled illegal immigration. So Viktor Orban is not only not a Nazi, but he's a Democrat with a small d. He is a great man, and it's not incidental that Hungary, Poland, and Romania, the 3 countries in Europe that do not allow unregulated Muslim integration, are among the safest and most prosperous in all of Europe. So I'm proud of my Hungarian roots today, and I salute President Viktor Orban as well as President Donald Trump for having the Hungarian president visit. So all in all, my friend, New York Police Detective Michael McMahon being pardoned, my dog Pee-wee 2.0, and the Hungarian president visiting the White House. It has been a tumultuous and great week here in the Stone Zone. I thank you for joining us, where we talk news, politics, history, food, and style 5 days a week. Until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed. And always remember, we'll always give you the stone cold truth right here in the Stone.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.